I've had a cold for, I guess, it seems like forever now, like 2 weeks. But this weekend was particularly worse. I was taking cold medicine. And wow, knocked me on my butt. I had a deadline to meet for my book, and I didn't meet it because I was sick. A bunch of sickos making me sick. Anyway. But I am at, let's see, page 170. It's almost done. I have, I guess, about 1,200 more words to go, and I will be done. Any of you that know me know that my book was done back in October of last year, but some things came up, and publisher wanted to, instead of making the second book, make it all into one book. And so we had to make some edits and some changes. And so, but anyway, it is getting done. I'm really excited about it. I've added a lot of my growth and my journey, and my learning, because I went through quite a bit of learning in 2018-19, and then again in 2020, and I had to take a break from focusing on myself, and had to return to work full-time. And with returning to work full-time, I had a goal of wanting to move out of my the house that I was living in. I was living with my mother, and it was not a healthy place at all for me to stay. And so I did wind up getting a house. And during the time I was going through and getting my house, my mother fell very ill, and she was very close to dying. She got very, very sick. I mean, she pulled through, and she went through rehab and everything, and then she had nowhere to go. And because her son, my oldest brother, decided he's like, we have to sell the house. We had to sell the car. She's not going to be, his decision to do all that. Apparently he's power of attorney, I'm not sure. Or she made him power of attorney. And so he made some decisions about selling all her property. And so she had nowhere to go. And he refused to let her move in with at his home because of some of the past things that had happened in our lives, and as a mother and grandmother. And so she had nowhere to go. And so I offered for her to move in with me. But there were rules. And the rules were very easy rules. Stay out of my shit, and no cooking. Not allowed to cook. Don't cook. Well, she broke those rules like the first week. I let it go. And then she kept doing it. And she almost burned my house down. So I finally just said, no, you have to move. You have to get out. And people thought of me as maybe an evil daughter. But you don't know the full story. And my book doesn't tell all of the secrets, because it's none of your fucking business. But it does talk about my healing journey and what I've had to go through to become a better person and heal from my mother wounds. And so it's been a very difficult journey for me. Not just going through it, but having to relive it and write about it has been a part of my journey. And if any of you have been through some of the similar situations that I have, you get it. You understand. And I appreciate your understanding and your appreciation for the patience that it's taking. that you should, or that I should take my time with. And so, I spent years feeling disconnected, and I'm 55. And so in my sharing of my book, I hope it helps others in their healing journeys and their mother wounds and their abuse and their issues of growing up in an era that wasn't so loving. And I hope that this is something that other people can relate to. And I'm not looking for acknowledgement from anybody. I'm writing my book specifically for me. And I find it curious and funny, not really funny, but interesting, noteworthy, that people are really invested in wanting to know my story. And because I'm not writing this for them, I'm writing this for me. And I know that there are people who are worried that I might be writing some things because they have things to worry about, because they know that they've done me wrong, and they're worried that they're in my book. And that's what I find very interesting, noteworthy, because the same people who keep asking me, how's your book coming along? Are you almost done? When's your book coming out? Those are the same people who are worried and concerned that I might be writing something about them. So I hope that everyone heals during this process and really starts to take a look at their own lives and how they fit in them, and stop focusing on me and start focusing on themselves. Because you're not going to grow, you're not going to change, you're not going to be a better person until you do. And that's all I really have to say about that. But my book, In the Eye of the Beholder, Turning Ignorance into Triumph, Surviving Unknown, Unfelt, Unhealthy Love. That's my book. Turning my wounds into wisdom, growing into the bright, beautiful woman that I was always meant to be. And over the weekend, I was not feeling very good. I think I even posted a few things that might be like, you could hear it in my voice, because you still hear it in my voice. But I hope that those of you who really are watching me and really want to know what's going on, really take a chapter for yourself. Because I'm not writing this book for you. I'm not writing this book about you. I'm not writing this book about my mother. I'm not writing this book about anybody in my family. This book is about me. And I find that people who are angry are the ones that are scared. And the reason they're angry and scared is because they feel guilty. And they should. But if you feel guilty about something, then you know you did something wrong. So I have nothing for you here other than my own healing journey. So, and every bit of it is the honest to God truth. And many people who read it, who have been a part of my life, but I was there when that happened. I remember that. I remember when she did that. I remember that. I was part of that. And there's a lot of people who are going to remember a lot of things. They're going to feel guilty. But that has nothing to do with them. Like, if you feel guilty about something, then fix it. Do something about it. So, I primarily was going to read a portion of my book here. But I couldn't decide what chapter, because I already shared twice. I shared something from chapter 9. And I have shared something about another chapter. Let's see. I think I shared a little bit about chapter 4. But at the end of chapter 4, I think maybe I might share that. Or I could share about my Grandma Clara. Grandma Clara, I looked up to her. She was very strong and smart and gifted. Old lady. She grew up in Bonne Terre. If you don't know anything about Bonne Terre, Missouri, it's an old mining town. And so back in the day, I mean, even any mining town these days is rough living. But during that time was even more rough, because just people struggling, living in a mining town. And I don't know. I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot from my grandma. She wasn't my biological grandmother. But she was the only grandmother I knew. None of my grandparents were well, except for my grandfather, which is another story. Were biological to me. So, if none of you knew, my mother was adopted. And so there's a whole story I'm finding out about that has been told to me was not the truth. And that's someone else's story to tell. That's not mine. So, but I can share about my bloodline, and what I'm finding out about my bloodline is that when I got my 23andMe DNA done, it came back very puzzling to me, and things didn't match up, and my percentage of DNA didn't match what it should have been with my brother. And there were some other things that just didn't match. And I thought, well, 23andMe at the time was going through, a bankruptcy. So I thought, well, maybe they screwed up. So I sent my stuff in to Ancestry.com. And I also sent stuff in through my doctor, my psychiatrist, because I was also taking medication, and we were finding out that some of the medications that I was on was really causing some problems with me. And finding out in the long run, really, I found out that I'm autistic, and I should have never even been on these medications to begin with. And so when my doctor got my medical, like my DNA stuff for my medical, we decided to order my medical records. We ordered my medical records from the time I was born, and we got all my medical records that I could remember, all the doctors and all the dentists, that names and stuff that I could remember through the Freedom of Information Act and HIPAA, and the hospitals that I knew that I had been a part of or born in, or, you know. And boy, was I shocked when I got a lot of my medical records back. And I shared with my family that I had gotten all these boxes of medical records because they were going to put them on not flash drives, on not floppy disk. I forgot what they were called, but they were discs, CDs. And I didn't have a CD player type thing, so I told them I didn't want that. I wanted them all printed. And it took 6 months for me to get all that stuff printed and sent off to me, but I did. And I shared with my family that I got my medical records and that things weren't adding up. And so, but when I did finally get my Ancestry DNA information back, and I was like, shit, 23andMe was right. They didn't mess up. And I found out that I'm 7% Ashkenazi Jew. I was born and raised and told that I was German Lutheran, German Christian, when I'm more Jewish bloodline than Christian Jew, like instead of Christian German. And I was like, okay, well, I need to do more research on this, and I did. And I tried talking to my family, but I'd already pissed them off because they started doing digging and started telling some truths and started telling people off because I was pissed. I was mad. I was mad that everybody wouldn't listen to me. I was mad that I was going through so much and no one wanted to be there for me. I was going through some injuries in my neck and in my back, my spine, and I was going through it, and nobody in my family wanted to be supportive in any of that, and I was fine, but it upset me, so I told everybody off, and I made a claim and telling my kids, I was like, you guys, some major things are going to be happening here in the next year, and some big changes are going to happen. And so I didn't share everything because they didn't need to know everything. Not now. Especially with the way they were treating me, I was not going to entertain letting them even in on some of the big secrets and the big things that were happening. And so I didn't share everything. But I did warn them. And I told them things were happening, things were going to happen. And when I got my medical records, I realized, my doctor realized, that my frontal lobe never fully developed. And I was part of there was an injury as a child that caused me to have some problems in my brain. And A lot of people can argue, well, injury, or you were born that way, or it's hereditary, or whatever you want to say, whatever you want to, people are still argue about it, but I'm autistic. I'm high functioning autistic. And in my medical records, it shows how I was nonverbal as a child for the first 5 to 6 years of my life. They really worried about me because I didn't communicate, I didn't talk, and I was afraid, I was scared, and I was afraid of people. And there's a reason why that happened, and in my book I talk about it. But my doctor did some more research on me, and we did some brain scans, and we figured it out that I really am. I'm autistic, and I'm high functioning ADHD. So I'm not just autistic, but I have ADHD. And a lot of that stuff, because I was very sensitive as a child, and I've shared this in my videos. I've shared how I've gone through life struggling with food sensitivities. I was very insecure as a child, and I cried a lot. I was a very emotional child. I shared this in other videos. I've shared how I have gone through some pretty difficult times, and very sensitive. You ask any of my family, you ask anybody I went to school with as a child, you ask any of them, I was very sensitive. I cried a lot. And the reason I cried a lot, come to find out, was because I was autistic. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to tell people or communicate how I was feeling or what was going on in my brain and my life. And during the time of my growing up, I was also going through a lot of abuse. A lot. People would take advantage of me. And then as I got older, people still would take advantage of me because I was always so genuine, nice, and authentic, and loving, and giving, and giving, and giving, and giving, and people would just take. And I never saved it for myself. I always, because I grew up in a Christian home where you turn the other cheek. I was taught to turn the other cheek. And so I was always turning the other cheek and always letting people take advantage of me. And I couldn't ever stand up for myself. And I got into relationships. I got into churches. I got into jobs. I got into places and around people who really took advantage of me. And that's what my book is about. I talk about how now I can see with clear eyes, and I'm not stuck in that medication that they were putting me on, blinding me. I should have never been on those medications. And now that I have a clear mind, I'm able to share with people my stories. And it's making sense to them now, where they can understand and see where I've been in my life and how people have taken advantage of me. And it's very eye-opening, and something that I hope other people who are similar to me, who have found themselves in similar situations, can finally break free of the abuse as well. And it's really sad that I had to shut everybody off because I couldn't pinpoint who I could trust and who I couldn't trust. And it was a huge undertaking in my life where I finally just gave up, and I gave all my belongings away. I've shared this so many times before, but I physically gave all my belongings away, all my furniture, all my clothes, everything to me except for a few things that I have close to my heart that I keep for my grandchildren, have given me and a few things that my daughter and my son have given to me, and a few other things that I hold dear, I hold on to. But everything else, I gave away. I kept a few clothes because I needed clothes. I had everything that I owned was in 2 suitcases. And for the first 6 months of 2025, I lived in those 2 suitcases for 6 months. I lived in a, you can read my book about it, but I call it the Wolf's Den. And she was a godsend to me, just an amazing woman who has gone through a lot herself. And we were able to talk through some things which helped me heal. And there's just many things that I learned through those, especially first 6 months. And then I moved out to Osage Beach because I had found a job out here to work part-time. And I had saved some money and was able to get an apartment out here. It just happened. Like, Lord just gave it to me. And it's a beautiful place here at Osage Beach. Beautiful area. And God sent, really. And it's allowed me to continue to work on my book. Meanwhile, I decided to have some fresh beginnings and made some major decisions in my life where I was just going to focus on myself and my health and my brain and my body, and that's what I've been doing. I've been focusing on learning all about, because when I first started my journey, I started with understanding my my shadow work is really where it all began. I started working on my shadows, my dark shadows, and I talk about this in my book. I started because they were able to find out the medications I should have never been on. Once all that poisons were removed from my blood, and it took forever because I had to titrate off of some of these medications, and you had to do it slowly. If you've ever been on SSRIs, and you know, like mood stabilizers and anything that has to do with depression, anxiety, PTSD, all these things that I was struggling with, and they were giving me all these medications that just were causing more problems. And if you look at old pictures and old videos of me, and you'd be like, gosh, she really has changed. But it's because I got off all those poisons. All that Western medicine I should have never been on. And now I can't tell people to not take their medication. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you should get your DNA tested. Start there, because a lot of these medications allergic to, like they cause more problems than you should be going through, you know. And many times it's just that you need time to go through. Like, it could be a grieving process that you need to go through, and you need to release that from your body and your bloodstream. And there's many other opportunities and options other than Western medicine. And it's just that I think most people just run to Western medicine right away and give psychiatrists. A psychiatrist puts them on these medications, and you don't really have the time to heal. And there's so many, and I talk about this in my book, all the different opportunities and all the different ways of healing. It's not just medicine, you know. There's, just fascia releasing. There's so many other ways you can heal from your wounds. And medication may not be the best. And I encourage people to do research. You can't trust the world these days. And I couldn't even trust my own fucking family. So if you learn anything from what I'm, talking about, I just hope and pray that you start looking at what you're eating, what you're digesting, because that's what it's all about. It's not just what you eat, but it's what you watch. It's who you're around. It's the company you keep. It's the things that you involve in your life. It's the stuff that, you shouldn't maybe be involved in or be around. It's all those things that you question, your dark shadows. And so that's where I encourage most of you, just start there. If you're ever in the pit of your stomach, you're like, I don't think I should be doing this. Then don't be doing it. Don't. Step back. Pull yourself away and be like, that just doesn't make sense. I need to do more research. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it isn't. But there's no harm in researching. Pull yourself away for a bit and see if something changes. Because your mind is poisoned by things all day long, all the time. What's your algorithm that you're stuck in? Doesn't matter. If you send an email to somebody, your algorithm is going to be like, oh, well, she's interested in this stuff. So they're going to start sending you advertisements. Even on your TV. You're going to start getting advertisements about something that you emailed somebody about 2 months ago. It's going to show up on your TV, even though you used your phone or your computer, because your email address is connected to your subscriptions. And your subscriptions that you have on Prime, Netflix, YouTube, any of your social media platforms are all connected. That's your algorithm. And so if you're stuck in a stinking thinking algorithm, guess what you're going to constantly get? Stinking thinking shit. And I talk about that in my book. What we digest, what's in our lives, and how it affects us on a daily. And who you put yourself around, and who, because your phones are listening to you, whether you know it or not. This video that I'm making right now, someone's listening to. Someone's watching this video. And I haven't even posted it. And I know that. I know. Because I'm watched. And so are you. So, I want people to be healthier, be happier. I'm not extremely happy with my life right now. However, I am healthier. I'm happier about who I am internally. And because I'm happier about who I am internally, it shows externally. Right? And I know you see it. I'm taking better care of myself. And I know that what I do on a daily is only making me a better person on the daily. So I pray that you start healing yourself. Start thinking about those things that you need to maybe pull away from that are causing you more harm than good. And even if it's just a temporary thing where you just need to pull away just to get a better picture of what's going on in your life. I'm not saying you need to leave people. I'm not saying you need to tell people to go fuck themselves, unless you actually have to. But, sometimes you just gotta focus on yourself. That's where we all should begin. Instead of pointing our fingers at everybody else and start looking at yourself. That's where it all begins. You can't help anybody if you're not helping yourself. So that's what I really want to say today. I'm tired of people. When's your book gonna come out? Why are you not ready? Why is your book not ready? Well, why are you so invested? What you worried about? Start looking at yourself. And then maybe after you start doing some of those things and my book comes out, you'll start seeing a bigger picture of things and areas. Do you realize, oh shit, healing it means so much more than I thought. Because part of your healing, you start getting some spiritual gifts back. And you got them. You got those gifts. You know they're in there. And you just forgot. Just start listening to yourself again.